Connecting to server. Okay, it says it's doing it. So there we
All
go.
right, great. So I'm Mackenzie Padula. I'm the programs coordinator and interpretive manager with Castle in the Clouds, and I'm here interviewing Charles Clark, our executive director, and this is a recorded interview. So hi.
Hi, how you doing?
Good. How are you?
So far, so good.
All right. So, how long have you been involved with the castle?
I've been a member of the Castle team for closing in on 7 years now. This
Wow.
fall will be 7 years. Yeah.
What was it like coming in the fall where our season is normally like summer?
Yeah, it was really interesting to come in at the really kind of quiet time between the summer tourist season and the leaf peeping that happens in the autumn every year at the castle. So it actually wasn't a bad time for me to join the team. Everyone who was here before me had been working hard to make sure our guests were having a great time. But it also gave me a chance to really see what a busy season was like too before falling into it for the next season. So it worked out all right, I think.
Great. What was your first encounter with the castle?
My first encounter was actually when I came up to interview for the job that I was applying for. I suppose I spent a little time on the website and Facebook before then, but the primary thing that I remember is how very different it was driving up. I'm from the Midwest. We don't have mountains. So even the mountains here around the castle, which are not all that dramatic, felt pretty dramatic to me driving up. And yeah, I did the whole thing. I came up and I took a tour with the previous executive director and a couple members of the board, and I got to hear the entire history, not only of the castle, Tom and Olive Plant, and what they had done, but also a history of the organization that I was thinking of joining. And I spent a whole day here. I got the full experience. It was great.
Wonderful. And what was your first job or role here?
The first thing I did here was working as the operations director. So I took on the role of overseeing all of our earned income streams. So the restaurant, our wedding program, visitor services, which includes ticket sales, and the gift shop. So I held that position from when I started in September of 2013 until about 6 months later when our previous executive director let us all know that he was moving on to a new opportunity, at which point the board of directors asked me to step in as the interim executive director in addition to those operations roles. And I held that position throughout the summer of 2014. And then in October, I was promoted officially to executive director, which is the position I've held since then.
What was it like being in the transition period? Like, was it
For me,
overwhelming taking on the more roles or?
yeah, I mean, it was already a steep learning curve because I was trying to learn everything about our operation. So it really just added on a few extra pieces that, I needed to really dive into the castle history, which I'd have been doing already. I needed to understand our business operations, which I was already starting to become familiar with. I think it was really valuable to have come in at the end of the last season. So I knew a little bit about what we were doing with visitors. um, and then for me, it was really great because our board of directors was really supportive during the transition. So they were able to guide me through the process and take a look at our plans and how we were going to move forward during this transition. And I was really happy that they decided that it would be a good idea to move me into the position permanently. It's something that I had set as a career goal several years before that I'd love to run a museum someday, and to get an opportunity to step into that role was really exciting for me too.
Oh, wonderful. And can you tell me a little bit more about your role as the executive director?
Sure. So my main role is to manage the overall operation of the organization, and that includes setting the strategic direction alongside our board of directors for where we're going, and then hiring the best staff I can to help execute that vision and move us forward. So I do a lot of my work, but managing both up and down, answering questions, being a resource for people, and helping to make sure that we're all moving in the same direction, pulling in the same direction, that we're all working toward a common goal,
Right.
and helping to understand what that goal is. Working with the team and the board to understand all of the potential that we have here, which is really, in my mind, basically limitless. We have so many different ways that we can engage our visitors. We have so many different ways that we can tell the stories of this property. And that really is a great opportunity for all of us to really find a lot of ways to get people interested in the history of the property and what we're doing. I also spend a significant amount of my time helping to make sure we have the funds we need to do everything we want to do. Restoration projects of the type we do are fairly expensive and specialized, so there's a lot of fundraising involved for that. And working with our local business sponsors and other organizations to make sure that we have a robust set of sponsorship for our programming and all the other things we like to offer. In addition to being, making sure that we're a well-run and lean and mean business. We have a restaurant on site, we have wedding rentals. So a little bit of business manager, a little bit fundraiser, a little bit strategic thinker. Those are all the pots that go into my job.
Great. And can you tell me about some of the major transitions you've witnessed the castle undertake?
Sure, yeah. So one of the big things for me is that we have set some strategic goals to transition to making sure that our staff is as professionalized as possible. When I came on, that work had just started, really. We started out now almost 14 years ago as a volunteer-run organization with very few paid staff. And over the last several years, we've really built up our team to include professionals with a lot of training and a lot of experience to do all the things we want to do. So that's a big transition, and helping both the staff and the board to make that transition is a lot of work. We've also been really working hard over the last several years to really engage our local community in more activities. The work that you do with programming will be one way that we do that, making sure that people feel like they can be welcomed here and and that they feel like the castle's a place for everyone is a big part of our vision for where we want to be. So that has been a big transition. When I first started, I heard a lot of stories of, oh, the castle's a place that only tourists go, or it's a place where only the wealthy donors go up and spend time there, as opposed to it's a place where anybody in the community who's interested in history and interested in the beauty of this property could come and enjoy it. And I think we've made some good strides over the last 6 or 7 years to really open up ourselves to be more welcoming to our local community, which is a big transition also.
Absolutely. And what are some major programs or initiatives that you've led or been a part of in
Oh,
addition to
that's a great
those?
question. So, a lot of restoration projects, obviously, that work was going on before I got here and will continue into the foreseeable future. But we've had a couple of really major projects. I'm excited that right now we're working on the interior of Lucknow's library, which is the biggest room in the house. One of the things that I'm really excited about showing off to our visitors when we get to reopen here sometime this year. And that's a big one. We've also done a lot of work on partnerships. So we've developed a new partnership with the Great Waters Music Festival to bring a concert series to the castle. We have a long-standing and very fruitful partnership with the Lakes Region Conservation Trust. So stewarding those partnerships is also something that's been really important to me, and I think to the benefit of the castle as well.
And why is the castle important to you?
Oh gosh, that's a tough question to answer because I just love it so much. But I think it's really it's a special place because it's easy to feel connected to it. Even from that very first visit when I was thinking about whether I wanted to come or not, there's just something special about the location. It's got amazing views. Um, the buildings, while they're impressive and fairly large, don't overwhelm the landscape. So you get a really good sense of being in a place as opposed to just in some house.
Right.
So I think that's another thing that I really feel connected to. And I think the story is compelling. Tom and Olive Plant came up here to retire and live their life. And then, much as we are dealing with now, there were changes in the world that led to them having to adjust their plans, but they still had this place as a wonderful and beautiful place that they could um, retreat to and enjoy. And that's something that we still offer today. Visitors who are coming here are having the same kind of experiences that Tom and Olive had. They can hike
Right.
the trails, they can ride horses on the trails, they can take in the beauty of the gardens, they can enjoy sitting on a mountain balcony and looking out at the mountains. I think that's one of the really special things that we offer to people, and it's something that makes me feel really connected. Is that um, it doesn't feel like a stuffy, closed off place where you're not welcome. It's really a place that you can go and enjoy and make it a part of your life. And I think that's really a special thing.
Absolutely. Um, and if houses could have personalities, how would you describe Lucknows?
Ooh, if houses could have personalities, how would I describe Lucknow? Um, I think relaxed is it. Because I know all of the quirks, probably a little bit cranky. Just when you're 105 years old, you're entitled to be a little cranky, I guess,
Just
sometimes.
a little.
Just a little. I think warm is a trait that I think of a lot. It feels like I said, welcoming. It's a place that brings you in and draws you in and holds you tight once you're there, which is really nice.
Great. And what was your background before you came to the castle?
So I've been a museum person, a career museum administrator, I guess is the terminology, for my entire adult life. I worked at the Center of Science and Industry in Columbus, Ohio for a little more than 14 years before coming out here. That was the first full time job I had out of college, working there. My background is on the operations side of things. I started out as a volunteer manager, and by the time I left COSI, I was running our entire visitor services operation, so customer service, security, ticket sales, the call center where the telephone calls would come in, and participating as an active member of our senior management team at that point before I came out here. So museums are in my blood. I think back to my childhood, and all of my favorite memories from family vacations and things were like trips to Washington D.C., where we got to see the Smithsonian museums. I grew up outside of Dayton, Ohio, and there's a beautiful museum of the United States Air Force there that we made regular trips to. Going to museums has always been a part of my life. Even now, when I take my family on vacation, we end up going to museums because that's what we do. So I think that's been part of my life for a really long time, and I'm happy that I've got the castle as a part of it now too.
Wonderful. Um, and I'm sure there was a lot of transferable knowledge coming from a science center to a historical house museum. Do you want to speak to that a little bit?
Yes and no. I think it's certainly, if you'd have told me 10 years ago while I was working at the Science Center that I would end up running a historic estate, I'd have laughed in your face. There's no way I would have chosen to do that. But certainly, the fact that Lucknow is filled with technological innovations that were really cutting edge at the time is something I latch onto a lot. We also have partnerships with a couple of other kind of science-based organizations. I mentioned the Conservation Trust. We also work very closely with the New Hampshire Astronomical Society for stargazing and things. So, I like to tell my friends in the Science Center world that we do a lot of science programming for a historic estate, and that's something I'm proud of. And I think a lot of my background was in the customer service and the people part of museums, and I think that's transferable no matter what. So if we're able to bring people in and give them an exciting experience and maybe hopefully get them to learn something as they're going on their way, those are the same kind of experiences we were trying to give people at a science museum too. So the experience of a museum in the details might be different, but I think at a baseline, it's the same across the board.
Right. And where would you like to see the castle go in the next 5 to 10 years?
Oh, that's a great question. Well, I want to keep building partnerships first. That's definitely a big one for me. I think that nonprofits like the castle are much stronger when they're working together for the betterment of our community. So I think seeing where this Great Waters partnership goes will be something that's interesting. I think there are probably other performing arts venues that might make interesting partners, more conservation minded. people as well. I think that I would love to see us be more involved in the lives of the children in our community, whether that's through school programming or partnerships with summer camps or something like that. I think that would be a great thing. And I'm really looking forward to the day when we're mostly doing maintenance and not restoration on the castle. I don't know if we're going to get there in 5 years. There's a lot of projects still to be done, but we're making progress, and that's exciting too.
That's wonderful. And something you like to do outside of work or outside of
Oh, something
museums.
I like to do outside of work and museums. Well, I'm a big video game player. That's my stress relief. It has been since the regular Nintendo when I was a little kid, and I still play games. Now I get to play with my kids, which is great. So that's definitely something that I enjoy doing, and it's a lot of fun. I also love to read. I like fiction, science fiction in particular. Um, my science background a little bit there, I guess maybe,
Yeah.
but yeah. So those are a couple things I really love to do.
All right. Well, wonderful. I don't have any other questions, so thank
Hey,
you.
we did it. Well, hopefully this gives us some good stuff to work with, and we'll get some more of these up for other people that are involved with the castle for a long time too.